All right.
Okay, we'll do our best.
Hi everybody, so today I'm asking my grandparents some questions similar to like a parent tag. So I have them both here and they're wonderful. Did either of you have nicknames growing up?
I'm not sure what my mother called me. Sometimes
No problem.
I was sort of her problem child. I have no memory of a nickname.
My
Maybe
siblings.
Trouble?
My siblings called me Chatterbox.
Nobody knows why.
No, not at all.
Do you have a favorite food?
Lemon meringue pie.
I just tended to like everything. It was never a problem for me. Food wasn't. I love food. So, but noodles, Grandma's noodles were high on the list.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Green.
And favorite animal?
Dog.
Dog.
What kind of games did you play growing up?
We played Kick the Can and Monopoly. I can remember playing strip poker with my cousins once. It got a little nasty, but other than that, it wasn't too bad.
The kids would get together at night and do games in the little dirt streets, and Kick the Can was a big one. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how you play Kick the Can, but Kick the Can was a big one.
I think you kick the can. Other than
Well,
that,
and I don't know, you run and
you hide and
I don't know. I don't remember. Have to look it up. Have to Google it.
What is your favorite story to tell from your past?
Well, my favorite story is the story about when I first met Bonnie. My first memory of her.
Favorite story, I think a lot of my favorite stories were actually my grandmother's stories, because Grandma was quite a storyteller, and I loved the time I spent with Grandma on the farm. I went and spent some time, stayed every summer for a while, and she'd tell all these stories about the little German villages on the Volga and things that happened to her as a child and things she did as a child. And I think, those have always been some of my favorite stories.
What was your favorite song or favorite type of music growing up?
For me, it was the Peter, Paul, and Mary genre music. If I Had a Hammer, and a lot of that social justice music. Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah, I think same for me as a young adult. I think John Denver's music. The nice thing about music from our generation when we were younger is that the lyrics were all clear, crystally, they were very crystal clear in terms of the diction, and they all had a message. Now, I'm not familiar enough with modern music that young people listen to, but I have trouble getting the message and hearing the lyrics. Maybe my mind is just slowed down.
What school activities or sports did you participate in?
Well, I was a musician. That was my first love. I played at sports, but never really found them that enjoyable. But I was the only high school student in the Fort Collins Symphony at one time. My trombone was my passion.
Yeah, and music was probably band. I played the oboe and the clarinet, and choir. John and I, as seniors, got to go to All-State Choir, and that was really, there weren't many girls' sports even. There was some track and field, but there wasn't much when I was in school.
What was your first thought when you woke up this morning?
Oh my, first thought when I woke up this morning. I always kind of tend to run through a list of what do I need to do today. I wonder if the coffee's made. I think that was my first thought.
I always begin every day when I wake up with saying I love you to all my people. So I start with Tim and his family, and then John and his family, and each person is named individually. Shauna and Brian's family, Evan, Susan, and Bonnie. And then I also say I love you to myself. So that's how I try to start every day.
Who was the oldest relative you remember as a child, and what's one thing you remember about him or her?
Well, the oldest relative I remember was my great-grandpa Frank. And great-grandpa Frank was really amazing. He always had to give us something when we left his house, whether it was a cookie or he had to give us something. And he was in his late 90s, and when I was about 10, and he had a German Bible he'd read it from cover to cover, and every time he would finish it, he'd make a mark in the front. And as a child, I just thought there were, it just looked like there were just rows and rows and rows. I probably wasn't as many as I remember, but big smile and just very warm. And I think he was the oldest relative I remember, was Great Grandpa Frank. He got his citizenship when he was in his 90s. He had never actually become an American citizen, and he took his citizen's exam and became a citizen. He told my grandmother, and she helped him. He told her, Mary, before I die, I want to be a citizen of the United States. So, in his 90s, he took his citizenship.
Well, my grandmas, I knew one grandpa and and two grandmas. Both of them were very special people. They made me feel worthy. They both gave me family artifacts, which I treasure, and I'm slowly passing those artifacts down to my grandchildren. And they were just really kind. Grandma Stegner made these wonderful cookies, ginger snap cookies.
Yeah, a type of ginger
and
snap.
Grandma Bowman made donuts. I could get sick eating her donuts. I would eat so many of them, but I loved them.
How did you two meet?
My dad became superintendent of schools at LaPorte, and I finished 4th grade at Timoth and then moved and started 5th grade at LaPorte. And there was this farm boy in my class that I really did like him. He was kind of a pain, but he was one of the kids I could kind of relate to and talk to and that I liked.
Well, my first memory of Bonnie was traumatic for me. I was sitting behind her in 5th grade class, and she had this beautiful hair she had in braids, and I couldn't resist. I reached up and pulled one of her braids, and she turned around and gave me a dirty look. So I pulled the other one, a natural thing you'd want to do. And she stood up and stomped her foot and said, "Stop it!" Stormed to the front of the class, told the teacher what I had done. The teacher made me push my desk to the front of the room, turn it around and face all 60 other children. I spent the rest of my day there, but I got even. I married her.
Not in 5th grade.
Not in 5th grade.
What is the story of your proposal?
Oh my God.
Well, I don't know. It sort of evolved. There's an official proposal, and there was
Oh God.
one time when we were much younger than we should have been. He was telling me good night at the back door. I can still remember, and he gave me a quick kiss and looked at me and said, "Someday I'm going to marry you." I reminded him of what he said the next day when I saw him, and he tried to backpedal. But then later on, we were in college, and my one sister, Pat, was going to have a baby in June. My sister, Jean, was moving in July, and we were going to get married that summer, but we went to my mom and dad and said, when are we going to work this out so both sisters, Jean hasn't moved back east, and Pat can be my maid of honor and stuff. But my mom wanted everything done in a kind of formal, old-fashioned way. So let's see, first of all, we had the engagement. We had a special engagement dinner at a restaurant in Greeley that actually one of my mom's cousins run. What do you remember about that? You talked to my dad. You remember what Mom said when you...
Oh yeah, well, her comment, finally, first of all, I was kind of a pain in the rear for Bonnie's mom. She wasn't sure if I was really worthy. Ultimately, she decided I was worthy, and I think I became one of her best friends. But when she finally, doing the formal thing you do back then was, you asked for their daughter's hand, so to speak.
You asked for permission.
Yes, permission.
To ask.
Yeah, and he was all over it, loved it, Grandpa Bethke was, and she grumbled and mumbled and finally said, "Well, if you do marry her, the dog has to go with her." The dog was a bulldog, Boston Terrier, Chihuahua mix, and I dearly loved her, but she was really
She was obnoxious.
Okay.
But we loved her. We had her for 15 years.
Yeah.
What memory stands out the most from your wedding day?
Oh my. We were trying to pick a different time to get married, and my dad said, well, what about your birthday? Well, we looked it up. My birthday was on a Friday. So we said a Friday evening wedding. Well, we didn't calculate that it was right in the middle of the quarter. We were on a quarter system, and it was right during midterms. So that was a little cute that we had this big, huge wedding right in the middle of midterms. The wedding day itself, it was all kind of a blur. I had made my dress, and Mom wanted everything to be perfect, and it was a lovely wedding. One of my favorite memories was probably some of the music. Our high school music teacher was one of the vocalists, and we had a lot of beautiful music at the service, and a pastor who was a very special part of our life was the one that married us. So I guess the music and John Halston kind of stand out.
I remember waking up and thinking, my goodness, this is the last night I'm ever going to sleep in this bedroom. And, you know, my home, I run my house. And then, I don't know, the wedding was really kind of surreal, and we got home and walked into the house, and she burst into tears and bawled for 15 minutes. She was totally exhausted. I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. And ultimately, she was fine, and the next morning I got the best breakfast I'd ever been fed in my life.
Yeah, it was pretty exhausting, getting ready to being in school and getting ready for the wedding. Yeah.
What do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Learning to listen, and it's something. Well, he's laughing, but really, it's something that you always are learning. You never accomplish that feat. There's a difference, actually, really hearing what the person is saying. Yeah, I think that's awfully important to stop and pause and truly listen.
Well, I think that probably the thing I've learned, and of course this is just one of them, there'll be another one, but is that the best way to settle an argument with Bonnie is to finally say, yes, you're right, my dear. And the other thing you've learned is that to remember life is short. You know, fighting is something that, you know, you discuss, you work it through problems, but you need to understand that, you know, we're not all going to be around here forever, and you need to treasure every day and love each other intensely. So that's how we get through
Well,
it.
and just if things are frustrating you, settle them. Whether it's something that's you don't are on the same page about, or if it's something maybe you're on the same page, but you have some other joint, you know, together you have a frustration with something. Just reach some kind of peace with it, and then move on. You know, don't let it be hanging out
Know
there.
how to settle the argument, and never go to bed mad.
Yeah, just I don't know, just focus on living the day you have well, and you know, and it's something you keep trying. You never accomplish it. You never get it. It's never done. You never master doing it right all the time.
Do you believe there is a key to raising a child?
Well, it's a kind of the same thing as learning to listen, which can be a trick because you want to tell them what they need to do and how they should do it, and you're always teaching, but you also have to listen, and every child's different. So what you would do with one child or how you would respond to one child isn't the same as you'd respond to another, because they have different sensitivities. Don't diminish them. Try and respect their self-esteem. It's the whole learning to listen thing, which is sometimes quite hard with children. You just want to tell them what to do.
The key is patience, because you will be tried. When they're toddlers, they will push you to the absolute edge of insanity. And then the next moment they will turn around and they will be the sweetest, most loving thing that ever was on the planet. So that plus all of us have good times and bad times, and you just need to be there for them. Sometimes you get in the way, sometimes you make mistakes, but if you love them, ultimately things will be okay.
How would you describe your spouse, and what do you admire most about each other?
How would I describe? Well, John has. He's laughing.
I can hardly wait to hear this.
Well, he's always been very hardworking and devoted to his kids and to me, and never any any question in my mind that, you know, he truly cared about our welfare, and too much of a worrier. He tended to worry and could drive me a little nuts that way, but I think that's mainly one of the, just unquestionably, you know, committed and devoted to his family.
Bonnie loves me unconditionally. One of her best traits for someone like me is to get, you know, she gets ticked off, she pulls the trigger, she lets me have it, and then she forgets, you know, and moves on. So I need that because I'm sometimes a little difficult to live with. And she's an Energizer bunny. The ideas flow from her mouth every day to the point where sometimes I just get really anxious and get indigestion because of the level and degree of ideas that she continually comes up with in terms of what I would have to do to fulfill the chain of things she'd like to get done.
Well, sometimes he doesn't realize that sometimes I just like to explore the ideas. It doesn't mean we have to do it.
I take it literally.
Do you have a favorite book or a favorite movie?
Well, growing up, one of our favorite movies was Friendly Persuasion. And I'm not even completely sure why.
It's a love story.
It's a love story. It involves the Civil War. It also involves a lot of internal conflict about being, you know, a pacifist, but then seeing when that doesn't seem to work, so to speak. How your ideals and reality can come in conflict, and how do you resolve that. Plus, it's just simple, about a Quaker family. We always really liked that movie. Another one was Lilies of the Field, Sidney Poitier.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead, John.
Oh, I like Snow Dogs.
Oh,
It's a great film. I try and get her to watch it with me again, and she just doesn't get it. Favorite books? Well, I think one of my most favorite books is the Jefferson Bible. And you'd have to read it to understand why. Some people wouldn't understand. They'd really wonder why in the world I would be so fond of it. But Jefferson took the New Testament, and by candlelight, after his work as president, he would cut and paste his version of the Bible. And I just find it absolutely delightful.
I think it was the things that he said he felt really truly reflected the person of Jesus,
Right.
that he felt maybe via other sources or by it being repeated, he felt it probably had authenticity.
He focuses on the humanity of Jesus.
My favorite book is usually the one I'm reading at the time.
Me too.
yeah, I get into, I've really enjoyed reading a lot of the books, the Maya and Indigo, and that they're reading. I enjoy seeing what kids are reading, and of course, To Kill a Mockingbird is I got reintroduced to it. I hadn't read it for a very long time, and they were reading it, so I read it again. And so it's
my second, and maybe it is really my first. Actually, there's three of them. These books by Maya Bode. I love them. They're awesome.
And the Bug
Buy them. They're really great.
Bug Zapper is yet to come. I think that's her best yet, but it's not out yet, so you'll have to wait.
Thank you.
I love that book.
Do you have a favorite quote or saying?
You don't know what's good luck and bad luck.
That's a
Through
good
life, you learn this. You feel like you've been kicked in the teeth, and you're down, and all of a sudden you understand that what happened can result in a very positive thing.
Something you really didn't want to happen. You think, oh, this is terrible, but then you see the sequence of things. It's not like predestination, like, oh, this happened because this needed to happen. It's just that in almost everything, there's something good can come out of it, and if you kind of stop and see what's spinning off. I find my grandma and my mom in my head a lot. It's just funny because grandma was always full of sayings, and so was mom. And if something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. I don't know how many times I heard that. And But the other one is my dad, and it's one of my, it doesn't mean much out of context. It's there's got to be a better way. But in our family, Dad didn't even want us to argue, and we did. My sisters and I especially would get going, and he was always calming the water. His hands would go back and forth. We called it calming the water, and he'd say, "There's got to be a better way." And I think almost any time you're really upset about something, or upset with someone, or involved in something stressful, if you stop and think, step back, stand in the gap, another expression, there's got to be a better way. Think about it. And so I hear that one a lot in my head.
What are your professions and how did you choose them?
First, I was an editor. After I finished my master's degree, I was an editor at Colorado State University. Never got to see my child and my wife, so I decided if I'm going to work 70 hours a week, I'll go back to farm. So I was a farmer for a very long time, and I'd always lived on the farm. And then after that, I was a financial planner. And then after that, I became a realtor, and probably one of the most enjoyable things I've done.
Well, when John and I got married, I got a teaching degree, but then Timmy came before I finished college, and I was fortunate enough not to have to work. I lived on the farm when we first got married, so we always worked on the farm. And there was always a certain amount of farm work to do, and actually that's quite enjoyable, and I love the baby calves. I really enjoyed raising baby calves. When my kiddos started grade school, I was trained and certified as a teacher, and I started teaching at the same school. I volunteered a lot, and then I became staff at the school where they were going to school. And I did that all through the kids' grade school years. And then I went back to just working with John full-time on the farm. When John decided to become a realtor, I did too. And we did this because our son said, "Why don't you guys do this? I think you'd really like this." And so my mom had been a realtor, and I had some experience with that, and we became realtors, and we met a lot of people and made some very good friends, and it's worked out really well for us in this final stretch of our careers. But my main career was
Grandma and Mom.
being a mom, really. Yeah.
Do you have any, or did you have any childhood heroes?
Starting clear back with my dad, one of the things my sister always talked about, and then Dad talked about it so much, was FDR and the New Deal and what that meant for the country. And then during the 60s, everything was so tumultuous, and John Kennedy was just, and Martin Luther King Jr. Were just major heroes. They were such beacons of hope. You just had this feeling, yes, things can be better. Yes, we can make a difference, as people, as individuals.
I agree with those two for sure, but I think probably one of the people who had the most influence on me in terms of being a shining light was Paul Beskey. He made me feel worthy, and I needed that.
What was I like as a child?
She was a very spirited youngster, toddler. Your mom called you spicy. An extremely gentle older brother that was just 2 years older, and that was very fortunate. She just was a very determined young woman. She had ideas about how she wanted things and how she wanted to do things, and she was very determined, very artistic from a very early age. I still remember her scarf stage, where she was, 3 years old maybe?
Mm-hmm.
And I never wore scarves, but I had all kinds of scarves from my sister, and then we had bought a bunch of scarves with from Gibbery for different, and she would tie a scarf around her head, wrap a scarf around her neck, and she would just be,
Scarfed.
yeah, she'd be a walking color, a walking multitude of colors in all her scarves. She was always very assertive, and as a little one, and it has served her well. It has served her well, and I think she's also and sensitive. It seems to run in the both family, and I think she has learned to use her assertiveness in very positive ways.
Well, if you look back at the pictures of her when she was little, you'll see she has a very expressive face, and you could see what she was thinking very clearly by what was the look that was on her face. So she was, I called her, and still call her, Maya Poo, because, well, I called her mother Shauna Poo, but the name stuck, it seemed to fit. She was a very, very sweet little girl with hot temper at times and very gentle spirit at others.
And she loved to organize.
Yes, she was an organizer.
She liked to organize her toys, she liked to organize herself, and she liked to organize
Her
everyone
brothers.
else. Her brothers, yes. Her cousins, she liked to organize.
What is your earliest memory of me?
Oh, I remember coming to the hospital. We took care of Evan when you were born. And then we brought Evan to the hospital. And we had to stop at the gift shop because he wanted to take you something. And he wanted to take his mommy something. So I think we got a balloon and a flower, I can't remember, something to bring up to you. But then we also had the complication of Evan was afraid of elevators. And so we couldn't ride the elevator up. And so we had to climb, and it's, you know, you were on the 3rd floor, and he's 2 years old, and so we're carrying these things, and we're in the back stairwell going up one step at a time. And then we walked into the room, and there was this beautiful, dark-haired baby in her mom's arms, and tired-looking, glowing dad is standing there, and Evan it was just a precious moment. It was his baby sister. He was just thrilled. And that was the first time we got to see Maya. And I think my first thought was just how beautiful she was.
Yeah,
Such a beautiful baby. And
I
she
remember
still
very
is.
well that first moment when we saw it.
Do you remember any funny moments or funny things that stick out that I did when I was little?
Oh my. You could go first on this.
Well, my memory of you is always present. You standing watching the Disney parade and Winnie the Pooh came
Oh,
by
yeah,
and
that
music,
was so
and you
cute.
were swinging back and forth, singing the music. And
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh. You've probably seen that video. Well, I just stick some.
You weren't even
That was
2,
fun.
I don't think.
She was fired up.
Yeah, because your birthday's in May and it was January. You weren't 2 yet. And yeah, you get excited and your little feet, you'd start stomping your little feet because you're so excited you had to do something. So the little feet would start stomping. I think some of the really fun memories were you and Indigo together because you were so much the same age. And the two of you, you really were good buddies. You played really well together, and just watching the things you'd come up with, the little shenanigans, ideas, and yeah, that was fun.
What's the worst or naughtiest thing you remember me doing when I was younger?
Let's see, well, you weren't a fighter, that was good. I don't remember you ever, the worst or naughtiest. Well, they're mostly just the tantrums. You
You were pretty good at tantrums.
Yeah, when you were really stubborn about something, and you wanted to do something, and you were tired, and trying to explain, they're pretty impressive.
You're pretty good tempered.
Yeah, you
And it
had-
came out occasionally.
I
I don't know what
rem-
you've done with it. You don't seem to have it anymore.
I
At
know,
least
I
it's not on the surface like it was then.
I don't remember anything real specific.
No.
You'd kind of melt down when you.
It did melt down.
You never melt down. You were a good kid, so you didn't. But the meltdowns were impressive.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah.
What's your favorite memory either with me or with all of the grandchildren at any age?
Oh my, there are so many.
Well, I
wonderful
think for
memories.
me it's just the Nana camps. Just the continuing bonding that's taken place of you with your cousins, and it makes us feel so happy. And that's one of the things that, our life has been a focus of trying to give you opportunity to know each other. So, it continues to be so.
And one of the really fun things, whether it was just you and that's one thing we didn't have ever much just you time, or because we'd have Indigo up with us, and so usually it was some kind of group of some level, but just going out around the farm looking for little critters or flowers, or you love to find butterflies, or
I remember one time I was carrying you and Indigo in these car carriers, and I had you both, and it felt good. I was swinging it back and forth and just walking with you. It was really great.
But you did when you were tiny. You'd squat down and just watch an ant, or on the sidewalk, a little stream of ants, a little chain of ants. Or I think those are some of the really fun memories when I had a chance to just share your excitement at discovering and watching something.
What are your goals for the next year?
Survival? Oh, just to be done with, we've done this remodel, and just to kind of feel, you're never done, but to kind of feel like we get that buttoned up, and then just to have time to do simple things. Sometimes simple things are the best. Time with grandkids, and one of my goals is to have a little more time with Elia, because she's a tag along, and I don't feel like I've had as much time with her as I did with all you guys when you were little. Yeah, just to try and stay tuned in at some level with everything all the grandkids are doing, and stay healthy. Simple goals.
Goal is to
get a new puppy, which is a dumb
Oh
goal.
yes.
But Ben, I think, is
Ben will be coming in October,
yeah,
and
a new
that will
standard
be
poodle.
really quite stimulating, I'm sure.
Well, our kids are wonderful. Our grandkids are wonderful. The 2 dogs we have are not necessarily wonderful, but we love them. But we just have a need to have another standard poodle furry friend kid. So that we can probably spoil rotten.
Maintain our health so we can continue to enjoy the family. And Bonnie can fix these amazing dinners for all of us. And I don't want to lose it. I don't want to gain any more weight.
Okay, so the last question, if you had to pick one thing that you wanted everyone to know about you, what would it be?
Well,
That you wanted everyone to know about you, not that you didn't want. In terms of my family, I just hope, I want everybody to know that I really, really do love them and care about them having a good life. Everybody, and that doesn't mean necessarily achieving any particular thing, or that just means, enjoying life and feeling fulfilled, and
well, I guess for me it's to have everyone know that I will do everything I can to always be there for them as long as I'm capable of doing so, and that I love everyone dearly, and my home will always be open to them.
yeah. I always want all my grandkids to know that no matter
She's got an apartment plan in the basement.
what's
for
going
grandkids.
on, there's a place to land if they need it, because
Yeah.
sometimes that happens. You need a place you're going to be accepted and that you can land. And even if you quote unquote screwed up, we've all screwed up.
Our real goal is to be of service. That's what our lives are all about.
Okay, yeah, I think that's it, unless there's anything else you want to just say randomly, but I think that's it.
Here, let's kiss your green bear.
I love you guys. Thank you.
I love you.
There you go.